Okay. So nowadays we are just listening the word Web 3.0, right? So what it is, it's very important to understand what is Wave 3.0 because it is somehow related with the blockchain, right? You can imagine all of you, okay? You can imagine the world um, before the computer, innovation of computer, and before the internet, right? It was the paper word, okay? All the things we need to do with the paper and pen, and then computer came into the picture, so a lot of computing power it was having. And again, you can imagine the world without the internet, right? That world is also very steady in nature, right? um, it was not so active, right? Without the internet, you can just computing power that computers are having, and without internet, right? Then comes again, you can imagine bank may there will be the computers, but nowhere we are not as a client, we are not connected with the bank, so still we have to just visit the bank and do the things. But again, computer is having its local machine where that data will get storage and computing power they will be having, like arithmetic operations, computations will be made easy for them. But again, you can imagine what can be happen with that, like computer can be corrupted. It gets off, okay, due to any reason, it's get uh, टैम्पर, राइट? उसमें से डेटा किसी ने चुरा लिया, किसी ने वो कंप्यूटर को खराब कर दिया, देन ऑल्सो योर डेटा इज गेटिंग लॉस्ट, and it was not easy. Then comes internet, okay? Internet आया तो your life get easier, right? And you can imagine here how wave 1.0 was there, okay? 1.0, it's very important to understand. Wave 3.0, we have to understand what is wave 1.0, what is there into web 2.0, and then we are moving towards the web 3.0. So web server is there, these are the client machine, right? These are the client machine. यहाँ पे माइक explorer है, internet explorer, msn, right? And you are having the html front end. Your data is computational power is with the web server, right? You just accessing the data, and again web server, you can imagine this is your uh, the same, right? We are I am using this board, क्या इसको जाम बोर्ड बोलते हैं, and this is of this is provided by the google. So the working this feature, this service is provided by the this google ka server, and we all are using this, right? We are just using, I'm just using it. Its actual code is not on my machine, its actual code is on their web server, and this is the database, right? Whatever things will get storage, like I'm having multiple boards, right? One for my subject, whichever I'm talking, whichever I'm teaching, right? One for your class, one for another class, so multiple boards with the data, and I'm having where that will get stored in the database. Who will store that? This web server will store that. So this is very similar to client server model, right? Client server model के जैसा है. You are already known to this, right? Used to with this. Again, you can imagine Facebook का server रहता है. Facebook is installed on only one server, and we are just using it. We are just user of that particular server, right? We are all are the client of this Facebook. Then you can have the Instagram, you can have, you can name it, okay? तो सर्वर के पास उसका खुद का डेटाबेस रहता है, and we all are the client, and we are using this. Then comes web 2.0, right? So web 2.0, again it's similar to this web 1.0, but it's having it's enhanced little bit, right? So you can see the enhancement in web 2.0, right? You can imagine here still we are the client, right? We are the client, and we are with the front end, we are trying to access the server. But here, enhancement is what we are having the cloud. Okay, cloud was there, remote computing we have, like this features, this feature is there in web 2. Enhancement is there in web 2.0, and the huge database you can imagine, right? So cloud computing, right? You can imagine nowadays, you just not rely to the server to get your data. You can imagine आपका, you are using the cloud service of Google, right? आपका जो भी Google Drive के ऊपर जो भी data है, you are not, who is giving you that service? So of course the Google is giving you that service, but no more you have to rely on a Google. You need not to always send the request to have access to those data. Instead of that, you can have directly access to this cloud service, right? Google is providing you. So anytime, no need to just send the request to the Google to give the data on the cloud. You can directly access this. Remote pairing is also possible, and the database, of course, database will be there. So this is there in the web 2.0, and now comes the web 3.0. Okay, so before coming to the web 3.0, let's understand what is the drawbacks or the limitations with wave 1.0 and wave 2.0. That's why the world has to think about moving towards this wave 3.0, and why it is so necessary, right? So if you observe this model very carefully, okay, if you observe this model, so you can imagine, uh, uh, you can just imagine the one day the Google stop giving the services by any reason. Okay, Google is no more there. So what will happen? You all are the client, you are not having the complete feature, like software of Google on your system. You are dependent on the Google, right? Again, when you are talking about the ऑनलाइन सर्विसेज, राइट? जैसे आप फोन पे गूगल पे यूज करते हो, सो यू आर जस्ट डिपेंडेंट ऑन, you are dependent on the server, right? And if you can have multiple times, you have observed that the transaction will not be done as the server is down. So this is the dependency, right? This is the dependency. Clients need to dependent on the servers to happen that transaction, right? Again, server is having lot of data, right? That is the one thing, right? Pehle to dependency is one thing. I can just write it here, dependency. ठीक है, डिपेंडेंसी के बाद क्या है? देन डिपेंडेंसी के साथ दिस कैन बी टैम्पर. ओके, किसी ने ये सर्वर के ऊपर अटैक कर दिया, एनीवन अटैक दिस सर्वर, राइट? So as you can see, we are not storing any data. You can imagine Google के सारे accounts hack हो गए, right? If someday all the accounts of Google is getting hacked, okay, it's tampering. Okay, tampering. So you can imagine, if someday Google के अकाउंट, गूगल के सर्वर के ऊपर अटैक हो गया, गूगल के अकाउंट्स हैक हो गए, सो यू आर नॉट हैविंग द लोकल कॉपी ऑफ द अकाउंट, राइट? सो गूगल बंद हो गया तो आपके जीमेल अकाउंट विल आल्सो गेट लॉस्ट. ओके, एंड यू कैन इमेजिन इफ यू आर हैविंग some important email communication as a proof, and agar Google stop servicing, Google stop providing you services, you will not able to access that email as well. It is lost. Okay, so that is like इसके ऊपर attacks हो सकता है, that is one thing. वो fraud कर सकता है, right? The server, in server, like as you are dependent on the servers, fraud, the chances of fraud activities is more, right? क्योंकि malicious user has to just think on attacking on this only single ये, right? इसके ऊपर सिर्फ अटैक करना है उसको, जो भी करना है इसके ऊपर, need not to bother about who all are accessing this. अगर इनका सर्विस स्टॉप करना है, इनको कुछ हार्म करना है, so just attacker need to attack on this one place, right? So these are the various problems with wave 2.0, right? Again, if you have heard the dark wave, right? So what is dark wave? Huh? Are you getting? So every time your credentials, your informations you are sending to the server, okay, and you don't know, you never know what this servers are doing with your data. You are just giving your personal, sometimes some confidential informations, you are just your address, your phone number, your email address, right? You are just giving that to the server and blindly trusting on the servers, and just faithing on them that they will not use your data for any other purpose, and that is something which is wrong assumption, right? You are just assuming कि ये data के साथ वो कुछ नहीं करते, but it is not the case. You all have experienced that you many times you are getting the call from the insurance company, you are getting the call from, if you are the student and you're just thinking about planning to go for the higher studies from various universities, you are getting a call for medical insurance, for any reason, right? To buy your credit cards, sort of times you are getting unnecessary calls. So again the question came in your mind, ye call mujhe kaise, how these calls are coming to me, right? Who has, how they get my data? So this is the something, you have given your data to some servers for accessing some services, and they have just misuse your data, they have just sell your data, right? And the question is, why the third party should uh, create a money out of our data, right? Again, it can be, you can imagine another case study, right? Like whenever you are buying a car, right? uh, so you are filling some online data of the car, and immediately you get multiple call from the car insurance company for taking their insurance. So you just wonder about how you are getting that particular call, how they get my email address, they got my email address and my phone number. So it is something which is a dark wave, right? So they are just getting, either they are purchasing or either they are getting somehow from this dark web your data, right? Your confidential data, and they are just creating money out of it, right? And the question is that it which is unethical, which needs to get stopped, right? So that is something, this is the point which is get raised into web 3. That's why we have to move from web 2.0 to web 3.0. So what is the main purpose of web 3.0 is, no more we will dependent on the server, right? We will not, because again I repeat that whenever server, client server is there, dependency is there, and you can easily imagine with this diagram, if attacker needs to place attack, need to disturb this particular system, usko google को hack करना है, facebook को hack करना है, instagram को hack करना है, right? You can take any, amazon को hack करना है. So they need not to like think more, they need to just attack on a server, right? Only on one machine, and that is more than sufficient to just destroy the system, right? So it's very easy to attack, to place the attack in the web 2.0. And at the same time the clients are facing the problems of dependency. You can imagine, this is your banking ka server, right? Banking ka server, and again you can imagine this is your bank is again centralized, this is called as a centralized system. You can imagine this is your bank, these are all clients, okay? You all are the clients of that bank. And if you can imagine, bank is closed for say 4 days for a holiday, national holiday. You are having emergency at your home, बैंक में पैसा पड़ा है बट बैंक को हॉलीडे है, इसीलिए यू कांट रिट्राइव दैट मनी, विड्रॉ दैट मनी, because you are dependent on the bank to happen that transaction, right? So it's your asset, right? Money you have earned by your efforts, right? And it's really your efforts, and you are just dependent on, you need to spend it for some emergency work, and you have to dependent on the bank, right? You have to dependent on the bank to happen that transaction, which is really a very sad thing, right? And what you are doing, you are just asking your relatives, just give me a loan for 2 3 days. Once the banks get reopened, I will repay your amounts. Okay, that is very very bad moment, right? And the centralization is uh, we are not, no more we require the centralization. That's why the world is thinking to move into web 3.0, where centralization will not be there, where client server will not be there. We will not be a client and no server will be there. It's just a serverless system, it's just a distributed system. No more it is centralized. It is very very difficult to hack, because it's not a centralized. Attacker has to place the attack on the multiple system to have that attack. It's not just the case of only one system. So that is something called as wave 3.0. And here we are just the researchers are just claiming that this wave 3.0 is going to disturb overall world, okay, overall digitalization. The way you can imagine, जब इंटरनेट नहीं था, उसके पहले की दुनिया और इंटरनेट आने के बाद की दुनिया, the way how the world seen or experience the disruption, okay, in various field, the same way now with the web 3.0, the overall internet, overall world is going to disrupt, okay. Disrupt in the sense ये 360 एंगल में पूरा चेंज होता हो जाता है, right? It's getting, you can search the meaning of disruption, right? It's a positive thing. Disruption is positive thing, right? When we are talking about web 3.0, it's bringing the revolution in the internet. It is also called as web 3.0, is also called as the um, it is next to the like next version of internet. Abhi ka jo internet hai, no one, like no more we will be having the client server model. We will having the client server नहीं है तो क्या है, peer to peer, right? It is called as a peer to peer, and no more it is centralized, it is a distributed. So this is the feature of web 3.0, and this is the feature we are just, again, in coming lectures we will be talking how this peer to peer and the decentralization work in, this is the features in the blockchain, how it was get implemented. You can imagine this is a network, okay, no more client and server is there, all are there, right? These all are the node, right? All are the node, and all are the peers. No one is no one is server, no one is client, and we all are, whoever is wanted to be a part of that internet, part of that network, they will join that network, okay. So this is called as a web 3. Now for the time being, what you have to remember, you guys has to remember, there is no way to run away from this web 3.0. You accept, you or you didn't accept it, it is going to be there very soon, web 3. And it is a need, right? Need of today's internet, where we don't want any man in middle to access that service, and we just don't want to uh, like wanted to sell our data, right? Like someone to sell our data or make money out of our data. It's not bad ki they create a money, they make a money with our data, but at least they should take a consent from us ki we are doing this, whether you are, or they should just share some amount with the originator whose data it is. You can imagine in medical, right? in hospital, lot of medical data are getting generated of patient, right? And that patient data is literally get sale, okay, by some hospital, we can say, right? Or some agency to do research. But again, the patient is not getting anything. The money is getting generated by the third party, right? And which is very bad thing. So that we don't want to be happen, like using the internet in bad manner, that we want to stop. That's why world is thinking about moving towards the wave 3.0. Okay, and blockchain is one of the thing which support this web 3.0 in greater, contribute to the web 3.0 in greater manner. Okay, so this is all about the web 3.0.